Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. We are super excited today to bring you our first Why Hybrid event. We're working with Nazdar today. My name is Tom Trimmingham. I'm the Director of Marketing for M&R Companies, and I'm here with Beth Kerfus. And Beth, why don't you tell everyone that's watching what you do for Nazdar?
Hello, everyone. I'm Beth Kerfus, as Tom mentioned, and I'm the portfolio manager for Nazdar SourceOne, and I oversee the textile screen inks screen equipment for Nazdar SourceOne.
Awesome. Thanks, Beth. So in this event, we're going to be showing you everything A to Z, hopefully with hybrid printing. It's about an hour-long webinar. We encourage you guys to stick around as long as you can because we are going to be doing a Q&A at the end. It may go a little longer than an hour. And at the end, we hope that we give you a lot of information, maybe that you didn't have before, and we were going to try to answer all your questions. The way we're going to do questions is we're going to try to hold the questions to the end for the Q&A. So if you have a question, anybody that's joining now, there's three bars up in the webinar, chat and Q&A. We want you to submit the questions in Q&A if you can. If you click Q&A, you can then submit a question. And then once your question is accepted, it'll show up to the group. And then we're going to try to answer as many of those as we can at the end. So I encourage you to do that. I'm just giving everybody a minute or two to climb in here, depending on where they're at, so we can get a full crowd before we start. Now, real quick before we kick off the official event with our first video, I wanted to do a quick poll of people that are showing up here. As people come in, they'll see this poll on the screen. So you can do this poll. I'm going to go ahead and click it and go ahead and start polling. And this is just a simple question, just for fun, to see what people's thoughts are in regards to how the digital squeegee is out there. So I just put it out there. So if you guys will see it on the screen, you can just take our quick poll real quick, and we'll give you like 30 seconds or so to let everybody answer, and then we'll start the event. So let me kick that off. Give everybody like 30 seconds or so. Yeah, I can see people are answering it right now. I appreciate that, everybody. And we got just a couple more seconds. We got a good group here piling in, so that's awesome. We really appreciate everybody showing up today too. I know it's in the middle of the afternoon, but if you took an early lunch or if you're taking a late lunch, depending on where you're at across the U.S., yeah, we appreciate your time. So we're going to try to keep things moving now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to close the poll, and then we will tell you what those results are shortly. So if you didn't get a chance to take the poll, well, you can guess at it. We'll give you 1 minute or 1 second to guess at it before we tell you the answer. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the event with our opening video. Great. Okay. Hopefully that got everybody ramped up. Learn more about hybrid printing. Now, hybrid printing, we're going to go into details now. Before, I don't want to make any assumptions of what people's level is about what they know about hybrid printing. But before we dive in with the experts here, I wanted Beth, maybe you can just let everybody know what they can expect from the webinar. So if you want to let people know, and then they'll know kind of what's coming up.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. So if there's two things we want you guys to walk away from this event, it's that hybrid printing isn't just for big shops. We have all different sizes of shops that are interested in this, that are running this. Hybrid printing is coming to be our future. And hybrid printing also brings versatility and opportunity to anyone and everyone. We also wanted to discuss the answer to why hybrid. And it's because we have e-commerce is becoming more of a thing. We have smaller orders, smaller sizes, faster turnaround that's desired. And this really, really opens up that opportunity to dip into that type of printing, that type of industry, that direction. And it's the face of the retail that's changing, and it definitely gives you the opportunity to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what's happened with hybrid, even the past 2 years. I mean, it's advanced so much, and it's really exciting to see, and it's exciting to be involved in it. So let's go ahead and review the polls, and everybody that's dived in there, and let's see what they thought. So let's go ahead and look at the poll answers now. If you didn't take it, I can reopen it just like I said, just real quick, and then you can see if anybody wants to take it again. But anybody's last guesses as far as what the right answer is. We've got, what was it, about 2% said. And so the poll, if you for some reason you don't see the poll on screen and you're just listening to this, how many digital squeegees are currently in operation worldwide? Answer A was 11. We got 2% of people that thought that. Answer B was 36, 10%. Or I'm sorry, 29% of answers thought that. As answer C, 85, 26% thought that. And then D, 110 plus, we got 40% of people that thought there was 110 plus. So, and the answer is, answer C, 85 digital squeegees worldwide. So that's pretty cool. And if you think about how many that is, that's a lot. You know, I mean, it's a big business if you have 3 or 4 presses, and 85 is quite a bit. So yeah, congratulations to anybody who guessed that right. But there was quite a few people that thought there was a lot more, that's encouraging too. But
Yeah,
it's definitely expanded enormously, because I can
well
remember.
on its way.
Yeah, exactly. All right, now we're going to go ahead and get with the experts now, and we want to talk about what hybrid printing is specifically. Many of you may be familiar with that, but we want to make sure that we cover the basics. And it also can be interesting because there are some points to the equipment that everybody should know. So we're going to invite on camera now. We're going to invite Patrick Lashbrook, and we're going to invite David Bolding from Nazdar. So Patrick is from M&R. Why don't you guys just real quick, Patrick, you want to introduce yourself real quick and tell us what you do for M&R?
Sure. I am the sales manager for smart products with M&R. So which basically means I help with all the digital sales, with all the regional representatives, with all the dealers out there like David. And so David and I work together quite a bit on, helping introduce and educate you guys on the digital products that we have.
Awesome. And Dave, maybe you could give us a little detail about yourself real quick.
All right. Thank you, Tom. I'm David Bolding. I am the textile equipment sales manager for Nazdar. I work with all of our sales team and to make sure that they understand the products. I help them close deals and make sure all of the correct pieces for the pie are in place to install digital squeegees and equipment.
Excellent. Okay, Patrick, can you start us off? Maybe just give us a quick summary of just the basics of hybrid printing. If you just tell us what is hybrid printing and how does it work?
So to keep it kind of simply put, hybrid printing is the combination of screen printing, the speed of screen printing, and the quality and resolution of digital printing. And to kind of stay on theme of why hybrid, right, is that with the digital squeegee, you can take a job that is traditionally, 6 to 12 colors maybe, and condense it down to 2, maybe 3, 4 screens. And on top of that, then add a special effect where you may have not been able to add it. So why hybrid printing is because you're combining the two. It helps condense the amount of screens you're using, helps your setup times faster, and you get better quality and resolution. So again, like it's just combining the two at screen print speeds with digital quality. And on the multitude of fabrics, because you are screen printing the underbase. We'll see some more videos and examples of this and talk about it more, but simply put, that's hybrid.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it, I think. And David, if you don't mind jumping in and just tell us about the equipment piece now. Like, what pieces of equipment do you need to execute hybrid?
Absolutely. All of the equipment that M&R manufactures is made to work as a system. So when you're looking at installing a digital squeegee in your factory, we have a lot of things we need to look at. Your screen making department, where we would need an automated coder, get the correct emulsion over mesh there, so our screens are consistent and give us consistent, repeatable results every time. Also, an iMage unit, that's a computer to screen system that will pre-register the image in the screen before it gets to the press. That way, we're able to take the tri-sync system, register the screens to the press and to the digital squeegee system. Those are a must. One thing to keep in mind, not all M&R machines will accept a digital squeegee. So you need to really work with your sales representative or one of us to qualify your machine. Sometimes we can upgrade older machines with some firmware updates and things like that to make them accept a digital squeegee. Hybrid printing like this, as Patrick said, is a combination of screen and digital. And the digital squeegee has really come on strong in the last 2 years. Advancements in ink technology, as well as what we all know about setting these machines up and getting them running in factories, is really advanced. We have these units running in factories that have a lot of different environments. Okay, some of them are 80 degrees with no air conditioning. Some of them are air conditioned, but the success ratio of these machines running in production is extremely good. We're at 100% on those that we've sold, staying out there and staying in production.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Well, before I want to jump in too much to the actual printing and the results, which I definitely want to get to, I'm going to show a video that Patrick created for us that shows some of the specifics about the digital squeegee itself. So let's go ahead and jump to that.
Look at that view. Jeez.
There you are.
Okay, so I'm going to go through some parts of the digital squeegee that make it special and that gives you that longevity and the ability to run this machine day in, day out. Thousands and thousands of prints like you're used to doing. So one of the first things obviously is the print carriage and the drive system. So what you're not going to see is pulleys and belts. This is done by linear motion, magnetic driven. Also, you have the machine is connected to the screen printing press. So in this case, this is connected to the Cobra, and you'll see that bracket right there. But whether you're on a Gauntlet or a Striker or a Challenger, they are all physically connected together. That gives it the strength, and it's not going to move on you at all when you're running. One of the other big features, and things that people are afraid of all the time, are head clogs or not having consistent nozzle checks. So what I'm going to show you is the capping station. And so what I did was just unload the capping station, and what you're going to see is you're not going to see a bunch of individual caps like you may be familiar with other digital machines. So what this is a large capping station with a nice gasket around the outside that when you are capping this machine, the whole system raises and seals all of the print heads together, creating a very humid environment to where you're going to have consistent nozzle checks every day. You have your wiper blades on there as well that sit inside, and this carriage moves pneumatically. So you're not dealing with any other electrical problems. The wipers move pneumatically to wipe the heads. So there's a couple things we did to this machine that help you out with your climate. Like most of you, your shop is probably open air, hot in the summertime, and in my case in the south, it's hot year round. So what there is up top is there's a manifold to where you can plumb in air conditioning, whether it be from your office's air conditioning or you buy a nice standalone machine to be able to just plumb in up top, and that cold air sinks down, cools down the print heads, the electronics, the pumps, and so on and so forth. Another thing is the ink system that we use. So the inks are really just dirty water, to be honest. There's not a lot of fillers or resins and stuff. All of that binder is in your underbase ink and your top coating. That's what gives you the durability. The durability is not in the inks. This is going to give you the nice bright color. Another cool advantage when it comes to the ink system is this tank. In this tank, we house all the inks in here and we fill it with water. Then we plumb that water to circulate through a chiller. So that chiller is cooling these inks down, and these inks are also being recirculated through the machine constantly, like you hear it doing right now. And what that is doing, those cold inks are flowing through those print heads and keeping those nozzles cold, and also the ink at a consistent temperature. That is a very, very unique feature of this machine that keeps it to where you have nice consistent nozzle checks every day, and you're not losing nozzles as the day heats up, throughout your day.
Okay, and I think that gives us a great kind of tip on some of the things that are unique, and also some of the reasons that David said that it's been so strong in the field and we haven't had the maintenance issues. So now I think we're going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk about everybody's favorite area, where I'm being a little bit sarcastic, which is art and separations. Art and separations, because there's a lot of questions in regards to, you have these two processes working together. Well, how do you handle, the variance between those two, and how can you simplify it? And we're really fortunate today because we have two experts in the field that we can bring in. So I want to thank Patrick and David. Right now, we're going to bring you guys back in a little bit. And then I want to bring on to camera, I want to bring Michelle Moxley, the Innovation Director at M&R. Many of you may have either seen Michelle in articles or in M&R events and that sort of thing. And we're going to bring in Simone Romero from Nazdar. So Michelle, do you want to just let everybody know what you do at M&R just real quick, and then we can get started with talking about separations?
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm the Innovation Director here at M&R. I've been developing hybrid the last 2.5 years, 3 years. And then recently I've moved into screen printer built DTG, which we're really excited about and we're developing now, and automations around all of that.
Great. And Beth, do you want to introduce Simone?
Yes, this is Simone Romero. He works with Nazdar SourceOne. Take it away, Simone.
Hi, I'm
Tell us
Simone
about
Romero.
yourself.
Hello, I'm Simone Romero, textile technical support for Nazdar. So I take care of anything to do with ink systems, and this is one of the ones I've been working on the most lately. Very excited to be here and be able to teach you guys more about this.
That's great. Thank you, guys. Well, it's great. Before we kick off the topic, we have a video that Michelle was nice enough to prep for us, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with that, which shows separations.
Just real quick, this is a video of the separation of samples that we printed for this event. So it goes straight into the separation. There's really no preface. So just to give you an idea of what this is going to be.
Thanks, Michelle.
Exactly. Yep. Let me jump into it.
Hey guys. So we're doing a separation for the digital squeegee. This is a pretty simple separation because it has variable data, so I can't really use any halftones. I have to use a solid background in this case. You can, of course, use halftones with variable data. You just have to be more selective about your artwork choices so that things will overlap between variations. And then you can make the background have the value inside. So in this case, it's basically just a solid background. So we've separated a discharge and the metallic. So we've added some stroke around the outside and then also on the inside so that when the metallic covers up the print, we're actually going to run it before the digital squeegee, and it will take on the influence of the color that's underneath of it, giving it some additional added effect. So in this case, everything is in RGB. You can work in RGB, you can work in CMYK. It doesn't really matter. For the ease of using variable data, you can do clean color application, which would help you to remove some of the excess digital ink and save on cost. When you're running variable data, it generally is probably a small run application, so that might be a little bit too much extra work. In this case, I'll convert it to CMYK. And then you can kind of just look between the channels and see if there's anything you want to remove. You don't have to convert it to CMYK. You can run it with just RGB. So in this case, take this all the way back so it's just solid. So now I'm just dealing with solid black outlines, and I can take that out of yellow and magenta, and then you can see kind of what that looks like. So before I took that out, I was here, and after taking it out, whoops, was here, oops, and then after taking it out, I'm here. So there's no real visible difference between the two, but I am printing less digital ink because I took some of that black out of magenta and yellow. So you just have to kind of see if it's worth it. If you had a large area of black, it would definitely be worth it. And I'm using cyan and black to build the black instead of the whole cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So that's one way that you could go in and kind of clean things up and save some cost. Now, it may not be a lot of cost. In certain cases, like if you're printing a brown bear, it may actually save you a good chunk on digital ink cost. We have examples available through the Smart University that actually teach you how to do this clean color application. And that way you can save up to 35 to 40% on your digital ink consumption per unit. So it's kind of up to you the amount of work that you want to put into it. So if you guys wanted to do a quick color change, say you got out to press and the color was wrong, or you wanted to create some variations, generally you're going to want to make a mask of what you want to change the color of. Sometimes you can just use the channels to find whatever you're looking for. In this case, we have this mask from the special effect, so we could change the color of this orange here on this variation. So I've made this selection. Like I said, you have to select whatever you want to change, and then you can either make an adjustment layer. So if we say let's make a solid color of green, and so now I have a green on top of this gold. Now let's say I printed the green and I don't really like it. I can go in here and I can change the cyan, magenta, and yellow value, and that would affect it. So if it was too cyan, I could take it down to like 45, and now I've got a more yellow green, and I can print it again. And I don't have to combine those two things. And in fact, because this is variation, I could just switch off to the next variation and output that. But as they are variation, I do have to run my script. So I would want to combine them before I ran the script, and I could save this as a working file. And say I go out to press and I print this one and I say that one's not blue enough. So I come back in here and I make it bluer. And then I will merge those two together, output that new PDF, and it goes straight through to the digital squeegee. But I save this working file so that I can always adjust that color. And you could build them like they are PMS colors. So you could actually just convert. So now it's a 368 C. And then you could label it and match it to the PMS color. And then we have, like I said, the two channels. So we just basically split the file, turn the channels into a DCS, and output those to screen on a template. Then we take the variations, which are all individually on separate layers, and we you run a script. So this is going to be scripts, browse, applications, Photoshop, scripts, and I'm going to export layers to files, open. I'm going to run a PDF at my highest resolution, and I'm going to check where they're going to be dropped off, right there. That's right, and I hit run. So now it's going to make a different PDF for each variation, and now I have all of my variations ready to be output to the digital squeegee. Now you can output directly from Photoshop, or you can use a template. We do recommend and train to using a template because this will help your digital squeegee stay aligned to your eye image and your screen, because your screen is generally going to be on a template.
Great. No, thanks. That's actually a lot of information. That's great, Michelle. If you don't mind, maybe you can just talk briefly about what it's like separating for the digital squeegee, and in comparison to maybe a comparable file to screen printing.
Well, so in the case of variable data, which you just saw there, which is what we ran for this event, you wouldn't really be able to do that in screen printing. You would have to run different setups. And so each job would be separated individually. With the digital squeegee, you're using a shared underbase for variable data, and then you're just giving it over a digital image file. You can actually print a different image on every single shirt every single time you print. Or you can send out variations and set the volume against each variation. So 100 of the first one, 100 of the second one, and so forth. Generally, when we run at shows, we cycle through all the variations because it kind of looks cool to see it doing that. But when you run it in production, you just set how many you want for the first one, the second one, and the third one. The cool thing about that is that when you do simulated process separations, a lot of times you're making these little minor decisions as you separate for when it arrives on a press that you're kind of stuck with. You can make screen changes, but it's kind of an event to do that. With variable data, when you're making a separation for hybrid, you can send out variations. So you can send out all of your little choices and decisions, and you can even print them on paper. So you get 11 by 17 paper, put it under the DS, run out through all your variations and pick the one you like best and put that on t-shirts. So it's really flexible in the art application. And then as far as just time savings, I think I saved about 85 to 90% at this point versus what I used to be analog. So something that might have taken me 3.5 hours, if it was like a really complex photoreal simulated process separation with special effect, takes me about 20 minutes, 15.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, that brings up a good point, Michelle. When we were getting ready for Long Beach, I think it was last year, January of last year, we were doing our setup printing and making sure everything was going to go print smoothly. And we had this shadow that our artwork had a hiccup in, and the shadow was coming through this weird color. So we sent it off. Michelle took it back. It took, probably not even 5 minutes. And she tweaked it and got it sent back out and put it into the machine, and it fixed the whole thing. It was just so impressive, guys.
Yeah, so it was pink coming out in a flag, an American flag. There's some pink shadowing. Michelle helped me out there, took it right out, and boom, it came out perfect. So that's how fast it could get fixed.
And so screen printing, your press would be down.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the separation that we just did, it was a lot of information, but it was kind of to show you all of those different aspects at once, because you can go in and affect CMYK without ruining anything. The print will still come out, it'll still look beautiful, and it will take whatever you tell it to do. You're not locked into what the computer assigns to CMYK. So you can remove things and save money. You can print in RGB. It's just like screen printing, guys. It's just CMYK.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Simone, if you can touch on real quick, maybe some of the pre-press areas related to hybrid and screens. Screens is, obviously, if you were looking at the design we just did for this event, that would take a lot of screens, even if you just did one variation, compared to what the digital squeegee can do it in. So.
Correct. Like David and Patrick said earlier, of the code of the TTS, the tri-lock, all that stuff, it all comes into play for it to be able to work. But you don't have to be afraid, because at Nazdar, hopefully we have a really good, I'm really happy we have a really good relationship with M&R and Nazdar, which will work together. They get in the machine, get it going, and then we have me, myself as a tech, and Carl Busey on the East Coast and me on the West Coast in Mexico. And we're able to come in there and show you guys how to actually get the printing done of the screen part of it, and the coding and the tri-lock. So once M&R has done their magic, then we can come in and support that by having our salesperson and us On the East Coast, you have Dan Zamuda and Carl Busey will take care of the East and Central America area. Well, Central America, not so much M&R. But on the West Coast, you have myself and Jerry Hall. They'll take care of West Coast and all of Mexico. We've had really good success with our Magna line. We're using 4 screens if you're going to print on polyesters, and only 3 screens if you're going to print on some tri-blends and mostly cottons. Have really good quality, color, vibrancy. So we've worked with a lot of guys probably that are on this webinar right now, and they'll be able to test how nice and good it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the results have been amazing. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and run the video that shows basically the prints that can be sent out as samples. So anybody attending this, we want to encourage you, where there's going to be a survey after this, reach out, give Nazdar your address, and we will send you a free sample related to the bag and the garment that's printed for this. So I'm going to go ahead and run the video that Michelle did for printing for this event.
Hey guys, we're printing digital discharge today on the digital squeegee. This is the striker with the digital squeegee. Chris is loading 100% cotton t-shirts, and then we're printing a white digital discharge in the first head. So it's important to fully discharge your shirt before it goes under the digital squeegee. When we do that, we have the red chili DX splash. And then we have the M&R hot head. So the hot head is going to help the discharge, but it's also going to flatten out any fibers or anything that was still sticking up from loading. It's important to use the hot head during the hybrid process for pretty much every application. We don't use it on the polypropylene bags, but we use it on pretty much everything else. Then we have a second red chili DX flash, and like I said, if the goal is to get it fully discharged before it goes under the digital squeegee, this is going to protect the digital squeegee print heads from any gassing off from discharge, and it's also going to ensure that the color brilliance and brightness stays completely solid. If you have a discharge that isn't fully discharged and you allow it to happen in the dryer, it could dull a little bit or become a little bleached, depending on your application. Next, we have Magnus Bling Silver. So this is being printed before the digital squeegee. So you can print special effects before the digital squeegee, after the digital squeegee, or you can print them, the digital squeegee, directly onto a special effect. The digital squeegee really likes special effects because they usually are a raised surface and they're a little bit like a tie coat. In this case, we're using a silver bling, so where the digital squeegee actually prints on top of the silver, it changes the color of the silver. So you'll see that as we go around. So this is the fully discharged product with the silver bling, getting ready to be printed on by the digital squeegee. We are not flashing the silver bling, but we are letting the residual palette heat help flash it slightly. So we're doing 3 different variations of the fish on the digital squeegee, and it's cycling through each one. This causes a delay, but it allows it to show off its variable data. Normally, if you were running a production, you would run the full volume of each one before you switch. Okay, so we're flashing after the digital squeegee to fully cure or dry the digital inks. And you want to do that so they don't pick off into your top coat. You need a top coat with discharge because that's going to help it in the wash. So here we have the flash. And then we have a clear top coat and it's double stroke, and this is going to protect it from fibrillation in the wash. And then we're sending it down the dryer. So this is a 3-minute cure for 320 degrees Fahrenheit in the dual heat zone Sprint 3000. And so we arrive with 3 different variations: a special effect, the silver bling, the bling that's being influenced by the digital ink, and then the different variations of the print. And it's a nice soft hand feel with discharge. And yeah.
That's awesome, Michelle.
That was awesome.
That's very cool.
Possibilities are endless.
It gives you some ideas that you haven't had, you know, like with regular screen printing for sure. There's a lot there. I want to go backwards just a little bit, and I want to talk with Patrick and David about the actual process of setting up with some of the tri-sync, and we have some variables. And Michelle did a additional video for us about the tri-sync. So I want to watch that, and then I want to talk about the way tri-sync works, because I think it's important for people to understand how that can accelerate setups, you know, because we've heard that from a lot of people that have the digital squeegee, that you know, how fast the setup is. So let's kick that off, and then we can discuss it a little more detail here.
Hey guys, it's Michelle from M&R. I wanted to go over our screen making process a little bit with the digital hybrid. It's really important in hybrid to get your screen making process dialed. We have a lot of resources available that you can check out through our different portals to learn how we make screens here, and we'll help you in your process to get your screen making correct. We do some things with our screens. Each time we check tension, we make sure that we're getting correct exposure. We use the MS-P3140 for exposure and the Tri-Light for post-exposure. On our screens, we're using a washout strip that shows the value of our halftone dots so that we get consistent halftone washout. We measure EOM each time on the screen. We record the EOM and the screen mesh on each screen so that we're consistent each time. So this is a 200 mesh at 9% EOM. That's more critically important with your tie coat screen. So your tie coat is the one that comes directly before the DS. And when you have consistent EOM there, you get consistent colors and consistent coverage. Additionally, we use an alignment screen, and the alignment screen is made to line your digital squeegee up to your press and also to your eye image. So this is an alignment screen that we've made in October of 2020. We check tension before we use it. It has the same washout strip. It has an alignment that is printed by the digital squeegee and aligned directly to this. When your DS is set up, it's set up with this alignment, and your eye image is also set up with this alignment. And then we use the tri-sync to align the digital squeegee to the press and the eye image. So now we're going to go over and see Matt using the tri-sync on the press. Okay, so like I said, we use the tri-sync to align the digital squeegee to the press, and that's how we add the screens to the press. So the tri-sync is different than the tri-lock. There's a rail that runs along that holds the tri-sync in place, so it doesn't have any lateral movement, and that gives you a more stable alignment to the digital squeegee. So Matt's going to add the tri-sync to the press now. And then it works just like the tri-sync. You go to the screen, you align the screen to the tri-lock, and you lock it in. you have any issues on press with alignment, you want to check your screen making process. And like I said, we have the different resources available through the different portals. And if you continue to see registration issues beyond that, you want to pull out the alignment screen, check the tension, and make sure the alignment to the DS is still adequate.
Great. Okay, so I think that's a good way to queue up a couple of questions there that we can talk about. Which is, you know, some of the pieces for TriSync. Do you have anything you want to add, Patrick, about how the TriSync works with the DS?
So if most of you guys probably have our machine or use Tri-Lock, the regular Tri-Lock or TriSync pallets. This one, like you saw on there, is different because we have to get that Tri-Lock pallet in the exact same place every single time. So what you saw in there is basically like a fork and bearing system, like as we use for registration, everything from our manual presses to our autos, and that ensures a nice tight fit to where it gets square and centered in the exact same place every single time, because you know your screens can move a little bit, but that digital is not going to move. You tell it to print, you know, these coordinates, it's going to print there every single time. So we want to make sure your screens are in the exact same place every single time. When you get it set up at your shop, the technician uses that exact alignment screen, helps set up everything, and shows you the steps of what he does. And you know that's you know a big component to why hybrid and why the DS is because we can take, not only are we shaving a ton of screens, meaning going from 8, 12 screens down to 3 or 4, we are also able to set those screens up and align them to the digital extremely fast. And I have a slide later to kind of show you just on an ROI, just from a screen making aspect. But yeah, so that TriSync is super critical with making the DS even more valuable and more, you know, give you increased speed.
Yeah, that's an important point because there are other systems out there, but I haven't seen any that do that efficiently like the DS does. So,
No.
you know, Dave, do you want to add anything maybe in how the eye image fits into that and like why it's an essential piece of this?
Absolutely. The eye image unit, it will pre-register the designs on every screen that's going to be used in the process. So our underbase screens are aligned perfectly when they come out of the screen making area. We use TriSync on press. And I'll tell you a story about a customer. He bought the first digital squeegee we put in his factory 16 months ago. I went in to help support with Tri-Lock training and press training for printing underbases. And they had already been using Tri-Lock. So TriSync was second nature to them. So when we went to set up, they had the screens in the press, squeegee's flood bars set up, ready to go, and were striking the design off in 5 minutes. So now that was with 4 screens. We printed 24 samples. We tore down. They had a 5-minute changeover to the next design. So within 5 minutes, we had 4 screens registered, striking off our first samples. It is critical to your success, as well as making money with the digital squeegee using this registration system. And as we know, the more the press runs, the more money you're going to make. And that's the key. So TriSync is the way to go.
And
Yeah,
David, I would assume.
You want to add anything? Go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was going to say, David, I assume those were, you know, they were higher color count jobs that would normally take a
good point. Yeah, absolutely. It was a design for a very noted wildlife artist, usually 12 to 14 screens that they're printing to get the correct look that the customer wanted. While I was still there, they sent samples off to this customer. And the next day, he got him a call and said, "This is fantastic. The detail that you're holding on my fish is phenomenal. And please just continue to run." So we started running production that week, 72-piece orders and 144-piece orders, one after the other. And within a week, they were making money on the machine.
I just want to add something real quick. I think,
Sure.
David, you did something really good. They already had tri-lock experience, so it was really easy for them. There's some people that don't have that experience or don't use it, or they use it once in a while. They don't believe in it. I mean, that's where we come in and be able to teach you guys how to do it. And don't get discouraged if it doesn't work the first time, because like Michelle said, there's some kind of variable that's not doing it right? So that's where we have to figure out that variable. And within a little bit, you'll be able to figure out what the variable was, and then you'll get going, and then you'll start 5 minutes, tri-lock. So I just want to point that out.
No, thank you. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to keep things rolling here. I know there's a lot of information for people, but I think we've got a real exciting part to kick off here now. So thank you. I want to thank you, Simone and Patrick and David. I want to invite back Michelle, and now we've got a surprise guest with us today, which is fantastic. We've got Heidi Craig from Fanatics that's going to join us. So welcome, Heidi, as well. And we've got some great stuff to show you guys. Before we dive into some of the discussions about color and different ways that Heidi uses, we've got one more video of some of the samples that we produced for this event. So I'm gonna hit that just a minute or two, and then we'll jump in with Michelle and Heidi and start talking about color and what she does with the DS.
Hey guys, we're printing on the Cobra today with the digital squeegee. We're printing polypropylene bags. So we have a smaller pallet and Chris is loading the bag. It's got a small handle, so the digital squeegee goes over the bag pretty easily. We're not flashing or anything, so the polypropylene won't melt. And that lets you do full color images on polypropylene reusable bags. So we're printing one screen of Magna Digital Fusion tie coat, and this is a 180 mesh, and we use a specific EOM. This one should be around 20%. It's double stroke, no flash. The digital squeegee is printed wet on the surface of this ink. Printing 3 different variations of the bag. So there's some fish graphics, and it's just cycling through one at a time. That causes a bit of a delay between the images, but it looks really cool when you're watching it print. If you wanted to print faster, you would just print all of the variations of one and then move to the next. Bag, and you don't really need to wash it or anything. There's no top coat, so it's just a single screen of the white Fusion, no flash, digital squeegee, and then it gets cured. So you can see Matt unloading, and then we're sticking it down in the Fusion dryer, and we're curing it through the dual heat zone dryer after we stack.
That's awesome. It looks great too. It's so bright. It really looks good on those colors. And you've printed some other fun stuff on the DS, haven't you, Michelle?
Yeah, so everything that we've ever screen printed, we've printed on DS. I don't think there's anything that I haven't tried. We even printed a tortilla once, so if you go dig around on our social media, you can check that out. Polyesters work. You can print on hoodies. You can print on bags. You can print on anything that will stand still.
That's awesome. Well, Heidi, welcome. Thanks so much for being able to join us. And I know how busy you must be. I can only imagine. And I know that you provided us with some slides. So we'd be interested in hearing from you. You know, how do you use the digital squeegee, and what's been your experience? And then I can pull up the slides when you're ready.
You want to pull up the slides now so we can
Sure.
kind of show.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is our digital color palette that we've been working on. You know, as fanatics, we have team color that's very important. So we're dialing into this. We're going to lock this digital color palette down so artists use that. We also are going to be able to build our digital network with that. So we would send a printout to our network. They can then also use the download and match up so that we know that we're calibrated the same way. So that's pretty key, and it's very quick. I mean, I've been working on standards for screen print for 3 years now, and you know, it's usually a year in the making just to get the, you know, all the swatches approved and everything like that, where this is so much quicker. I mean, it's like instant, all colors, you know, and then you can make slight adjustments. But we've been working on that, and the hopes is that, you know, as we build our internal and external in our network, this is the key to getting color consistency. I guess I have the, let me go back, not that one yet, sorry. Just wanted to show you this. The first one on the left is a screen print. The middle is digital squeegee, and the far right is direct to garment. This is what we did in our last Super Bowl. This is the dueling helmets, and it's pretty cool that we were able to expand, you know, flex our production up. You know, we start out small with maybe direct to garment, then as orders come in, because we do everything by order, as orders come in, then we can scale. So it's a very scalable way for us to move around. You have to design into it, although vector art has been working for us as well. But designing into it, like the Chiefs, you know, you do see 3 different reds, or maybe 2, but also within those designs, you see multiple reds. So somewhere within that design, you're hitting team color. And that's what's critical to the team and to us in making these Hot Market t-shirts. So this was Hot Market, and this is exactly what we produced and put out. We're getting closer and closer to being able to flex, you know, in this triangle from traditional analog to digital, you know, direct to garment and hybrid. That gives us the opportunity to do the best process for the order, whether it's color count or the order size or to backfill order. So that's a really big tool for us, because we do 72 pieces in 144 our wheelhouse. So if we mess up 2 pieces in a run, we still have to produce those 2 pieces. And the way we're set up, it's a little difficult to run it right with the job. So we'll have to tear down and set back up. In a traditional world, that's a nightmare for something like this. I mean, you're looking at probably at least 10 screens, you know, with the digital squeegee, and then being able to subsidize anything with a direct to garment, then, you know, you've made your life a lot easier. Let's go to this. This particular design we ran, it was only supposed to be, I think, 10,000 units. It ended up exploding to 60,000 units. And we had to produce 60,000 units in 2 weeks. And we did it with 3 DSs. So we also did it on fleece and tees. And it ran those DSs for 2 weeks strong. And every print looked great from the beginning to the end. It was a really nice run for us to see, okay, beginning, middle, end, and how, you know, a lot of times when you're dealing with halftones and stuff, you get dot gain and all this kind of stuff. Everything kind of looks the same exactly the way through. It's like a printer. So it was really nice. And it was great to see it run like that wide open. Here again is the DS versus direct to garment. So you can see, you know, in a retail environment, not just an MTO environment, but we're hitting a level where we can go to retail, and Joe consumer is not going to see a difference. You know, they're going to say, oh, I want that shirt, and that's that. So that's kind of how we're using and leveraging digital, because, you know, we are a 1-up to however many you want. So this is the flexibility that we need internally and in our network. And we realize we need it sooner than later as MOQ is lower and our buying team wants, not to commit to as much and want to be able to put a lot out there, because this stuff just, you have a small window of time for any kind of win for your team that people just want. If they're going to get it 3 weeks later, they lose that momentum. So it's really important for us to be scalable. We could put it out there as a 1 and then just let the orders come in and decide which process is best suited for the order itself.
That's great. Now, I love those examples too. Maybe just for those of you, there might be a handful of people out there, I'd be surprised, but there might be, that don't know Fanatics and don't know what you guys print for. Can you just tell us that just real quick?
Well, we're majorly an e-com business, but we do now, in the last couple of years, have entered the brick and mortar world, and where consistency is important. It's important, obviously, across the board, especially when you're dealing with team sports. But now we're in more of a critical environment where things are going to be displayed on a floor where people are going to interact with that. So, we have to, if we're going to do, this triangle of systems, we need to be able to make sure that it's acceptable. We can't say, oh, well, that's the DS version, and that's the, traditional analog, and they look completely different, because we couldn't backfill with that. And Fanatics, basically, we will do one. We're a custom company. We've got all the leagues, major leagues, the license for major leagues, and like NFL, NBA, NHL, and some other leagues that are smaller as well, and NCAA. So, but e-com and fulfilling that one order and custom is a huge part of who we are and what built us, and just having that infrastructure of being able to do that with the licenses is huge. But you have to deliver a product that is good in team color. It's very important. So.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we're rolling a little bit on time. Michelle, do you want to add anything before we jump? We're going to jump to one last section before we go to Q&A. We've got a ton of questions in Q&A too. So do you want to add anything, or?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Heidi.
awesome. Yep. Thank you so much, Heidi. If you could stick around for Q&A, we'd appreciate it. We understand if you got to go, because I know how many teams you have to print for. So thank you so much. We're going to bounce real quick. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the slides. So we're going to bounce back and to our last section. I know we're running a little bit over. Everybody, I want to ask you if you can stick around for the Q&A. I think it'll be worth it. If you can't, we understand, because we know we quoted just an hour, and we will have the recording for you to check back on as well. We appreciate your time. So let's look at this now. We're going to be talking about now a few questions to talk about, some profit questions with the DS. Like, there have been a lot of questions, and I know that people look at DTG a certain way, like direct to garment, and there may be some confusion or need some clarity with regards to how hybrid works with pricing and that sort of thing. Let me go ahead and kick on. You want me to kick on your slides, Patrick, that you supplied us? Let me go ahead and kick that on, and you guys can talk about digital squeegee here.
Let's see. Let me get to the correct one. Sorry.
And we are running a little bit short, just FYI, not to cut you out.
Yep. So this is the main one that I wanted to show you. This is a basic stripped down ROI. We have several ROIs that we can get you. But this one basically just shows just screen cost, right? So these are variables that you can change. So let's say assume your screen cost is $12, whether that's including labor, not including, but just for general cost, $12. Normal screen print, how many jobs a day do you run? We're going to keep that consistent. Average number of screens. This is 6, hybrid, average 3. You may have 2, you may have 4, and so on and so forth. So you say you're cutting your screens in half by doing the same amount of jobs. You're cutting your cost in half, and your setup time is going way down as well. And you can see the amount of time that you saved over the day, and the amount of screen cost saved per year is $43,000. Now, this is just very, very simple and basic math, but it shows you how fast this compounds when you're stripping out just screens. We're not even talking about art time, setup time. Well, we are talking setup, but art separation time, adjustments, ink mixing, you name it. And so we have several of these forms in Excel, so they don't look like this, but you can adjust numbers based on your shop that I'd love to get you, so you can do kind of more of an analysis from a cost perspective and how hybrid really can advance your shop and save you some money, and in turn put more money into the business.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I don't know if Dave, if you want to add anything in regards to just overall, like how hybrid can help systemize and or modernize your shop, maybe automate it a little bit, even in a small size. I just want to emphasize one more thing, which is we had a couple of people adopt a digital squeegee that were single press operators, which initially we had no idea people would want to do that, but they've seen tremendous success by doing that. So it's just something where we don't want to pigeonhole it and you only think you have to be a big shop, but maybe you can talk to the automation piece of it a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. As you move into looking at adding digital squeegee to your shop, the things that you're going to notice is that you're going to reduce your labor costs, okay? Because you're adding pre-press automation, you're adding computer to screen, you're adding automated coding, okay? You're going to get consistent, repeatable results from that automation. Going to your press, you're going to have fewer screens to set up. Using tri-sync, you're going to have more press time. You're going to be able to do those high color count jobs with that digital squeegee, and you can monetize that as well. The other things that one of my customers showed me last year was this. They used less screen chemistry, they used less emulsion, and they had less labor costs in their screen making area. So actually, they were using this as a green solution as well to attract new customers, because digital printing is better for the environment because we're using water-based type ink systems.
Yeah, I think all those are great points. And people, I think, one of the things I'll just say just real fast is that I think one of the most underrated aspects of automating, in a sense, is people walking around with items, whether it's screens or film or shirts or all these variables that require people to move things around. And when you can systemize it and put stuff together with less processes and focus on one output, it can really reap some benefits. Well, I appreciate that, guys. Like, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Q&A because we do have a lot of questions from the audience. We prepared some pre-made questions as topics, but I'm going to go ahead and kick over to the Q&A, and then we'll close the slides here and just go back to the Q&A and go ahead and start to dig through some of the questions. Many of them have been answered by people, but let's just go. I think first one out of the gate, maybe, does the digital squeegee only work discharge ink as an underbase? Maybe Michelle. I don't know if Michelle or Patrick, if you want to answer that one. Can you use plastisol?
Yeah, so the digital squeegee has lots of different chemistries that it works with. Currently, you can use discharge, high solid water base, and there is a plastisol. It is developed specifically for digital hybrid application, and the plastisol is an activated product for the tie coat screen, the screen that comes before the digital squeegee. So it has a lifespan. Okay. Simone, do you want to add anything as far as development for inks and different things for digital squeegee?
No, Michelle hit it. Michelle already covered that, but like you said on the plastisol, it is a two-part system where it will have like a discharge. It will have a lifetime, and it only has a certain amount. I think it's 5 days that you can work it, and then after that, it's no good.
Okay, perfect. Is the digital squeegee compatible with Sportsman machines? Maybe David, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Not at the present time. There's an R&D project that's ongoing right now to really dial this in. Hopefully we can offer digital squeegee in the future. Patrick, you might want to add to that.
Yeah, and like David said, we are doing some R&D on looking at that. But the thing to note is, a Sportsman or a Diamondback, maybe we can put it on there and it prints fine, but you also want to know that you got to have a certain amount of colors, and that's something we didn't touch into. So not every Sportsman or Diamondback will work. You're going to need one that's a minimum of 14 colors. So that puts you up into the EXG category or a Challenger 2 category potentially, and things like that. So So really, yes, we may be able to go into Sportsman's, but your limiting factor is going to be the amount of colors on your print heads. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive because we're reducing the amount of screens greatly, but the way that you print things is the different part that needs the amount of screens.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. Go ahead,
There was
Beth.
another question that just popped in on that same track is, does the digital squeegee only work on ovals? And that's pretty much lines right up with it. It's the Cobra was just launched, I believe it was August of last year, and the 12 and 14 color are compatible with the digital squeegee, and that's essentially flat indexing screen printing press, and that really just completely changed the game for hybrid printing and opened up the doors to smaller shops that can't invest in those, you know, large oval presses and the challengers and gauntlets and all those types of presses. So as Patrick mentioned, just consider your number of colors, because obviously it's the digital squeegee takes up, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 print heads, and then the rest of your colors, you got to consider what you're going to be printing. If you're going to be printing polyester, and Dan touched base on this in one of the questions, you have to make sure that you have room to do any specialties you want to do, any migration blockers, anything like that. So yeah, it'll fit in a 12 color, but just think about what is your company, what's your printing target.
Absolutely.
That's something we will help you with. Finding out exactly what kind of fabrics you print, what's your customer base, and we'll be like, you know what, you want a 12, but you're only be limited to so much. You're gonna have to buy this, and we'll show you why.
Yeah.
And David's really good at that.
Be happy to work with you. We call that a production audit. We'll ask a few questions about your current shop, the equipment you're running, your customer mix, your fabrics that you run for those customers, and we'll be able to make recommendations on investments.
Yeah, and we got a couple other questions. You know, people are asking about Alpha 8s or Diamondbacks or Sportsmans, and we've already kind of covered that as far as compatibility. You need a certain size, but they really need to reach out to Dave, Patrick, and talk to you guys about what'll actually work. But if you're interested, definitely reach out and we can talk to you about it. And then we've got a couple of questions about fabrics. I think Dan kind of addressed it a little bit, but I think just for clarification, what are fabric limitations, if there are any, and how does it work on performance? And what if there's a heat concern as far as curing? I think it was Maria or something asked questions. She tried to jam 4 questions into one, but it's like, is there a heat concern with curing the ink on a performance fabric, yet not shrinking or bothering the performance fabric? Maybe you guys can address that.
Well, I know with Magna there is additives where catalysts that you can add to it to lower your temperature to try and meet the fabric types that are heat sensitive. It just depends on the fabric. All fabric's totally different, but it's definitely, there's additives that we can add to try and accommodate any fabric. And like you said, with polyesters or anything, we have blockers that go first and be able to stop the migration and help with that temperature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say this is another big bonus for the why hybrid, right? Is that you're not necessarily limited to fabric. There's not much Michelle hasn't printed on that she did with traditional screen, right? So that's a big advantage when you're talking any digital product, but specifically hybrid. You're really not limited to much of anything, as long as it's still.
The only curve there is the screen printing part of it. So if you're not experienced in high solid water base and you're using low cure additives, then you need to learn that. But it really has nothing to do with hybrid. The hybrid, like I said, it'll print on anything. And everything that I've screen printed, I've hybrid printed that I can remember. And a few extra things too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there's a bunch of pricing questions. I want to encourage them to reach out to you at Nazdar, David, and to talk about pricing. I mean, we have some published pricing, but you know, prices on everything are in flux right now. So it's important for them to reach out to you directly and see where we stand with that. But you could feel free to comment on that if you will, but I think it's better one-on-one a lot of times to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, tailoring a package for you that fits your shop and your budget is why we're here. So reach out. We'll work with you. We'll do a quick audit of your shop, show you the numbers, and help you with an ROI that you can use to monetize this.
Yeah. And Michelle, we got a handful of questions about EOM. Can you clarify what EOM is and how does it make a difference? I mean, I've seen about 4 comments on EOM. I know that maybe that's not easy to answer real quick, but
EOM
there's a
is
bunch of people
emulsion.
basically saying,
EOM is emulsion over mesh, so it's essentially how thick your stencil is, and you want to measure it and repeat, and that's where the auto coating and the eco rinse and all of the automation in the screen room will achieve that for you, and that makes your hybrid perform at the best that it can and makes those fast setups and repeatability.
that's awesome.
Yes, it basically controls your ink deposit. More consistent ink deposit that you have, the better off you are in taking care of those variables.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Basically, what are the typical dryer settings? I think somebody was asking for the dryer setting on the polypropylene. Oh, you answered it already. Okay, yeah. We're good on that one. Does the digital squeegee only work on ovals? We covered that. White tie coat or clear tie coat? You guys want to respond to that? Patrick basically indicated that, but
there's white and clears available, and they each kind of offer their own specific attributes. So you kind of just get into it and start playing around and see what you like. So we highly encourage testing everything that is available and seeing what you like. Whites generally means less screens.
And that goes into what David said about fabric. Finding out your customer base, the fabrics that you use, we'll be able to give you instructions on what's the right ink to use. And even if you get into something different, like Michelle said, it's all out there. We have clears, whites, everything. So definitely we can hit everything.
Yeah, I think, and you want to talk about the pre-treatment or lack of it as far as digital squeegee? Anybody want to address that?
What pre-treat?
Well, I mean, it's relevant, right? I mean,
yeah, just joking. But yeah, there is no pre-treat, so that's why it's getting the hybrid name. It's getting screen print and digital, so there is no pre-treat, so you don't have to worry about that. Your screen is your pre-treat.
Yeah, essentially. Okay, awesome. All right, I think, and then we've got we had a handful of questions we brought with, but we're a little bit over the limit, but I think we can take a couple. I mean, we kind of schedule it for up to half an hour over the limit, and then we can kind of wrap it up here. One of these is, you know, and this ties into a question we just got in, which is what size shop, average shirt order, or typical business? And I know, David, you said you do an audit for everybody to kind of make it individual. Do you have a range that you suggest for people, or is it all individual?
It's all individual, but you know, if you have DTG in your shop, you can look at those small 12 and 24 piece, 36 piece orders. You can run those and be profitable. When you get above that, you can set up a digital squeegee and start printing in that, you know, 60 to 300 piece, and you are very profitable in that range right there. When you get above that 350 piece, now you got to look at, can I screen print it and make more profit if I do that? So that's what we like to do with the run sizes and the fabric types with you, and really categorize where it falls, either screen, hybrid, or DTG.
And Tom, if I may, on that,
sure.
Like David said, yeah, that between those numbers financially makes a lot of sense. But we have customers that have printed 100,000 pieces hybrid. Or on paper, you're probably like, man, you crazy? But remember, your setup times day in, day out are much less. Your consistency is the same. You don't have buildup on the back of your screens. You're not getting dot gain. It's going to print this same from the first one to the 100,000th piece. So there are intangibles there that make hybrid worth the time to even do it 100,000 pieces or plus.
Yeah, just like we did the 60,000. You know, we thought it was 15, but we still were committed to the DS due to the fact that it was high res, halftones, you know, photo real. You just can't translate that one necessarily to analog without looking completely different. So
Yeah.
the fact that, you know, you have those flexibilities, and it was 3 screens, it wasn't 15, you know, look at all the skin tones and the color that's involved in that. And then trying to get it even to reproduce, like we had it on three different presses. We couldn't have 3 different traditional presses producing it exactly the same way without some kind of fluctuation, just because of dot gain and whatever, and some of the presses nuances. We would have more fluctuation in analog, and we just stuck with digital squeegee throughout the thing because we knew it was going to be a completely different animal if we went to analog, and you know, it was the right decision to make for our company.
Or like you said, with the
yep.
oh, go ahead. With the screens themselves, doing an analog, you'd have to have you'd have to have 2 sets on each machine, because you know you're going to get a breakdown that many pieces, and you're going to have a screen there unless you stop your machine and go and expose one.
Totally, yeah. And I was going to say, you know, one thing I think that's worth addressing to some degree. We didn't touch on cost per print to any degree. I don't know if you guys want to mention that, but if it's DTG compared to DTG, there's significant cost in the print in the white underbase, and compared to a hybrid. Maybe if one of you wants to speak on that as far as the cost variation between like a traditional DTG and a hybrid print.
I would say one thing to consider is DTG. Remember, let's say your shirt costs you $1 and you're doing 100 pieces. It's always going to cost you $1. Always, no matter what. When you're screen printing, you do have associated costs with setup time, screens, but as you print, that dollar amount goes lower and lower and lower and lower, right? Because you're amortizing it over that time. So those are just, there's so many different variables as far as those costs go, but that's just one thing to remember when you're comparing it to DTG and screen, is that DTG, your cost is going to be the exact same every single print, no matter what.
Right. No, I think that's a really good point. We do have a bunch of more, again, costs in shops as far as setup and different things. I mean, obviously you need a dryer of a certain size to cure this, correct? I mean, maybe we should just touch on that just real quick, because people are asking about that curing that they need. You want to answer that, David, as far as?
Yeah, absolutely. These are, most of the ink systems are acrylic water-based type systems. So you do need a slightly longer dryer. We have customers curing with 12-foot S-3000 dryers, okay? We can't run them at full speed at that point, but we are getting correct cure. We recommend at least a 16-foot dryer to give you the proper dwell time, and you're able to run at maximum output off of that digital squeegee when you do that.
And what are we quoting right now, Patrick or Michelle? What are we quoting as far as a reasonable expected speed? Not the typical speed you see in an advertisement, but you know, like, what's a reasonable speed for digital squeegee print?
It prints over 400 an hour.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, for most people that.
And one thing to note, the printer doesn't print white space. So if you're printing a smaller image, it doesn't travel the full distance of the printer. So it's only going to travel what it needs to, which gives you 400 plus, right? So if you're printing a small thing right here, you can go faster.
Yeah,
correct.
And Simone, what kind of water-based support? I mean, if somebody isn't familiar with water-based, or they're nervous about water-based, they want to learn about it, how hard is it to convert a regular screen printer with plastisol to learn water-based so they can handle this kind of thing?
Well, if they have absolutely no water-based experience, it does take, it is a totally different beast. But like you said, you have myself, like I said, we have technical support. With Nazdar, you do have technical support. You have technical support from Magna. But we can pretty much teach you within a couple of days to get the basics of it. You'll still struggle for a little bit to get the learning curve, but like I said, we're there to help, so we'll be able to get them going. But around a week to teach them, and then it'll take depending on the shop, how much they know.
Yeah.
And one thing to note is you're really only dealing with 2 to 3 SKUs of inks, maybe, depending on the system you're using, right? So your whites, clears, top coats, it's pretty much the same thing, repeatable for the most part.
Yeah, and if anybody's been in a shop that's more than like 4 or 5 years old, they typically, a screen printing shop, they'll typically have that wall of ink, right? Those cups that they've mixed of every, see every Pantone. If they're organized, you'll see a like color rainbow of a wall, and then if they're not organized, you see a giant, stipple painting of inks everywhere. And with the digital squeegee, obviously you can to some degree avoid that, other than whites and specialty. And Magna has quite a few specialty inks, don't they? As far as
correct. We have pretty much everything from puffs to metallics, everything really.
Yeah, and now, before we wrap up, I mean, we got to wrap up in a couple minutes. Michelle, you've got a couple places where you've been publishing some of the really cool effects you've done. Where can people go online to kind of find that and that sort of thing?
So we do blueprints, promotional prints on the digital squeegee pretty frequently, and you can check those out through any of the M&R portals. You can go to our YouTube channel, through Facebook. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at NotoriousRND, and all of digital squeegee stuff is posted there. And then when you do purchase a digital squeegee, we have a database set up of all the development we've done over the last 3 years with separations and artwork available to you. And we do a training with you to teach you how we're doing it here, get you caught up really fast.
Yeah, the training has made all the difference too. And I would encourage anybody that's interested in this to talk to the folks here at Nazdar about the training, and because that's absolute key, because you don't want to get a high-end piece of equipment like this and not get the training in. What is it like to sample really on the hybrid and getting a sample out for your customer? Maybe you could speak to that, because I know the pains we used to do in sampling when I was working with Harley, but it was like we would block off like 3 weeks for sampling for a catalog, and it was brutal. But what's it like sampling with the DS? You guys want to speak to that just briefly? What do you think, Michelle?
We make samples here at M&R, and sampling is the same as producing. It's just less pieces. So you set it up, it takes 5 minutes to get it set up. You print as many shirts as they sent, and then you send them out.
Yeah, it's that's kind of what I was alluding. It's almost like it gets too easy. You get kind of spoiled, I think, a little bit with how fast you can set up and sample something once it's dialed in.
And Tom, the other thing that I know Michelle does and a lot of other shops do is when you are sampling, you may send out 3, 5, however many variations of a print, just based off of like what you're doing in Photoshop, and you have them back to back to back to back, that you could then point out, hey, this is the one that I like, or that my customer likes the best, and you ultimately run that one, which makes it a lot easier versus swapping out inks out of screens, reburning new screens, whatever it may be. It's much quicker to make changes when sampling than it is with traditional analog.
And it's worth noting, like, you're using the same print heads in the press. The flashes are staying in the same place. You're using the same hardware every time. So it's not just that you're using less screens and it's making your setups faster. You're doing exactly the same process over and over again, unless you like switch to polyester. And overall, you're cutting corners all over the place. A lot of times people will sample in the open heads too. So they'll put up a job to produce, put up a job to sample, run them both off, take the sample out, produce the job, go to the next two.
We go through 1,500 screens a day in traditional analog. And when we start doing hybrid, we take that average of 5 to 6 screens down to 3 to 4. It's huge for us. I mean, even if we save 1 screen a job, the setup's quicker.
Whoa.
We've got that at least once a day. It's fine. I got my dogs going insane. I'll mute you temporarily, but yeah, it's insane. Well, no, they do so many screens. Well, I'm waiting for my dogs to go crazy too. So at any minute.
So sorry.
No, you're fine.
Amazon's at the door.
That's all good. Yeah, at least once we got to have it. Yeah, I mean, I think the screen savings is huge. I mean, as far as stacking, especially if you're doing a bunch of designs in a row. We had one client that said they were actually able to reduce a whole shift per day. I mean, obviously that's not a promise you want to make, but looking at it, like they were able to reduce and compress all their setups to the point where they were able to reduce the necessity of it. There is a question in chat that came in that said, why would we need so many heads with the digital? I mean, maybe if you can just talk them through, like, again, I know you did that in the video a little bit, Michelle, but I think people get confused as far as they're just seeing one print, the digital, and then a tie coat. But there's other necessities in there. So maybe somebody want to talk to that real quick.
So there's a bunch of different printing methods that you can use with hybrid, and they require different screens. So there's a 2-screen method, which is discharge, 3-screen method with the white tie coat, 4-screen method, which is either polyester or clear tie coat. So essentially what you want to do is buy a press size that gives you versatility for all of your product. And that's where David was talking about doing a production evaluation and helping you decide what piece of equipment would allow you to continue and to grow. Because if you want to add special effects and you want to do creative stuff, you don't want to cut yourself off before you've even had the chance. And that's why we recommend a bigger press. It gives the hybrid the best chance to help you succeed.
Exactly.
Great point. Well, we got to wrap up here. We got about 5 minutes before the half hour. Let me just see. I'm just going to check Q&A a little bit. I think we had some more questions come in. We've got, again, more pricing questions, which is I want them to reach out to you guys and David and you can, because I think it's so hard to answer just from a little snippet. Like, what would this cost me? It's like, well, it's like are you trying to stuff this in your bedroom or I mean, it's like we gotta sort through that. But I think there are certain components that they need. Obviously, you need a press, you need the DS,
a
dryer. How essential is a hothead, Patrick? Maybe you want to handle it. Like, how important do you think that is?
I mean, you can print without it, for sure.
No.
But a hothead.
Get a hothead. 100%. Get a hothead.
Okay.
Michelle's like,
I agree with Michelle.
Lowers the gavel.
I was getting there. Yes, get a hothead. But is it possible? Yes, you can produce it without it. But short answer is get a hothead.
Yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to make an excuse, right? I mean, it's basically essentially, and as far as the sum cost of the total, I think it's makes total sense to have it. So
the ROI on that piece of equipment is very quick, like 3 months, because it gives you the optimum underbase because it is so smooth that your digital print is beautiful on top of that. So it really is worth the investment.
It'll shorten your learning curve.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Michelle.
I said
Well, on top of that, you can use it for process on.
One at a time, folks. Simone, go ahead. And then Michelle.
On top of that, it's not just for digital. You can use it for plasma. You can use it for everything else. So anything in your screen printing, you can use it for, and it improves it.
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, perfect. All right, we got it covered. Okay,
No,
Beth, you want to bring us home here? And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
It'll shorten your learning curve when you get into hybrid. If you get a hothead, your learning curve will get more narrow.
Perfect.
Oh, cool.
Beth, if you want to bring us home here and then tell people what next steps are, if they're at the point they really want to consider this or they want to learn more. And we do have samples for everybody, so they got to look for the survey from this as well. So you want to wrap us up here?
Yep, you're right. So, I mean, we already touched base. We know the presenters pretty much spoke for themselves of the versatility, the opportunities you have. They're completely endless. It's not just for big shops. We have the Cobra that can be used with the digital squeegee, and it's just a small round flat indexer. So guys, we have the backing with M&R, obviously, to support us in anything that you guys need. We have the technical experts, as Simone mentioned. We have Simone Romero. We have Carl Busey on the East Coast and the West Coast, and they're very, very well-versed in hybrid printing. So we have everything covered here. So after this, there's any additional questions you have, feel free to reach out. There's going to be a survey coming, as Tom mentioned, and that pretty much wraps it up. Our website's going to come over at the end of the event, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions you have.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. And thanks to everybody that helped present today. Thank you very much to Heidi and Michelle and Simone, David, Patrick. Jerry's in the background somewhere as well. So thank you everybody that took time out and spent time, and thank you to everybody that attended, taking extra time out today. And we look forward to doing this again real soon, and we'll cover some extra stuff. We'll see where hybrid went when we get there. So thanks again, everybody.
Thanks,
And
Tom.
Bye, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks for
Thanks.
attending.
Have a great day.
Bye.